So obviously I said yes, and gave him or her a time limit and a specific time. I'm looking out into the crowd. And obviously Fantastical demos are risky. Not a dangerous demo, James. It's a risky demo. And I'm really hoping that he or she gets up here soon so that I can stop making a fool of myself. What should we do? What do you... Ask me anything. There you go. Let's do that. Who is it? No. What would you like to know? Let's do a Reddit type ask me anything. Am I a web developer? Some may say I am a web developer. Some may say I'm a telecommunications developer. Some may say I am an RTC developer. I like to think of myself as a web developer. I'm glad you asked.
What did your worst client do, and what did you do about it?
What did my worst client do, and what did I do about it? So if you're not aware, I run Nimble Ape Limited. We are a RTC consultant business, and we help lots and lots of clients throughout the world. What about my worst client? I've never once fired a client, so no one's ever got to the point of me going, I do know my worst client in my head, no, they're not here. They're not here. I guess I gave them the respect that they deserved because they were my client, and all my clients are amazing, even if some are more irritating than others. So that's a very diplomatic answer, Randy. So the game is given up. Dr. Alex is up on stage. He's going to do a fantastical demo. Let's do one more question while Alex sets up. Has anyone got any other questions? Burning questions for Dan Jenkins. Why Nimble Ape? Oh, that's such a good question. So it was 6 and a bit years ago, probably. It was December 2013. And suddenly I had this offer of work from Digium. And Digium couldn't employ me. You ready? I'll make this a short story.
Take your time.
Okay. We're running over, so we might as well run over, right? Digium offered to... They wanted to run a program called Bespoke. And I knew WebRTC, and they needed people that knew WebRTC. So I needed to form a company because they couldn't employ me directly. So I was like, oh, this is difficult. So I always love, you know that line from Google Fonts, the quick brown fox jumps over whatever it is. And I was like, thank you, the lazy brown whatever it is. I always love that, like the jumping fox. I was like, oh, that's energetic, and like a fox, that's cunning, and so I was like, oh, okay. So I work in web, and like we work agile, right? So what's another word for agile? Okay. Nimble. Okay. Eventually I got to nimble, and then I needed an animal that was, agile and nimble. And the first thing that came to my head, I'm so glad this isn't being recorded, is it? Video-wise? Oh, it probably is. Anyway, so I needed an animal that was nimble and agile. So the first thing that came to my mind was a monkey, obviously. But nimble monkey doesn't make sense. It has to be 2 syllables and then 1 syllable. So I was like, well, what other kind of primate, chimp, whatever? Nimble chimp doesn't make any sense. Nimble ape, that sounds amazing. This sounds really, really, like it happened overnight. No, it didn't. This took a long time. No, it wasn't overthinking at all. I found so many that I really wanted, but the domain names were already taken. We all know in this day and age, you need a domain name. Or the company in Company's House in the UK was already taken. So yeah, Nimble Ape was not my first choice, but I love it to this day. And that's the end of my story. Thank you very much. So I'm going to half intro Alex. Alex knows his stuff about WebRTC. He's got something amazing to show us all. And thank you very much.
Thank you for all the stories. So it all started last week. There was a conference in New York called Big Apple Video Conference by people that were working on AV1. And Cisco announced the first real-time AV1 integration. It got a lot of press, it got a lot of coverage, and honestly, it's fantastic. If you have time, take a look at the YouTube live streaming. It's great. Yep.
What's AV1?
AV1 is a new codec that is born from the fusion of VP10 from Google, Dala and Tor from Cisco and Mozilla, put together to have something that would be royalty-free and better than even H.265 or the next generation. So they team up, they did something called the Alliance for Open Media, AOMedia, to make sure that it will be royalty-free and to protect people that would use AV1 from aggressive patent aggressors and things like that. That's AV1. So AV1 as a codec was fully specified in March 2018, so more than 1 year ago. But there's still a lot of time usually between the specification of a codec and the time you can actually use it on a normal hardware and so on. So usually it's many years, but people have been really hard going at it. First by improving the decoder, because most of the people have video on demand, Netflix use case and so on, so they have the time to do the encoding, but they want the decoding to be fast because people will stream in and play, right? And for real time specifically, there is additional problem. The encoder need to be fast enough, and to be integrated in SIP or WebRTC, you need to figure out the RTP payload. So there is still ongoing work in the real-time group at AOMedia, of which we're part of, to define the payload specification so everybody can put it there. And then there is SDP, exchange, what's the name of the codec we put, and so on and so forth. So this is still ongoing right now. This is a job we do. And Cisco is part of the group, and they presented the first one, and with the focus on the encoder speed. So, cool. That means on a normal hardware, so they were using MacBook Pro in the presentation, you can actually encode and decode AV1 today. It was integrated in WebEx, so they had it in the cloud, in the gateway, and everything. There was really a feast. So we said, okay, we have nothing to do for the weekend, right? So this is the slide, what they announced, integrated. So HD, it was 720 for the demo, software encoder real-time on a MacBook Pro, plus integration in WebEx, integration in RTP, SDP, switching, transcoding from H.264, and so on and so forth, right? So it's here, it's good, but we're not going to open source or share it with anyone. Good luck, was basically the end message from Cisco. So for 1 year, we had actually had an implementation of AV1 in WebRTC with RTP, with everything. It was not integrated in WebEx, obviously. We don't have access to WebEx source code, so we have something else called Millicast. And we were not using David1, but the reference implementation of AV1 called LibAOM to do that. And a reference implementation is usually not very fast. It needs to be complete so people can test again if they're compliant, but the performance is not the problem. So full integration, but not real time. So we got that and say, okay, see, we look at the list and the only thing we're missing is the real time part, right? So, okay, supposedly myself and my number two have a PhD in video compression. Maybe time we make it mean something and just not the title, but let's go to work. And lucky enough, we didn't have to uncrustify our skills and write any assembly code. First, I want to say it was absolutely trivial to implement because libWebRTC is absolutely well designed, extremely well documented. It compiles automatically on a lot of architecture. And if you cannot do that, just come to us. All right? So that's the simplify class diagram, 20% of the code. Then you can go into the part that handles the media engine. So capturing, encoding, packetizing, and on the other hand, depacketizing, jitter buffer, decoding, and so on. You're still not there. If you want to add a codec, you have to go into the video codec factory, where you can, next to H.264, VP8, and VP9, just add AV1. You do that again for the packetization. You do that again on the way. You're done. 6 months. If you have the drawing and the diagrams and everything. Thanks for us, we didn't have to spend the weekend writing assembly code and optimizing because the libOM team, the reference encoding, decided in May that it was about time now to have a real-time mode for the reference encoder. And so that's the benchmark of the encoder once a month, April, May, June, and almost July. So that was the exact same day that Cisco did the demo, totally random. We realized that even though the normal performance is still flattened out at a very, very strong 2 FPS for 720p, not exactly production ready, the real-time mode was ready. So on a normal computer, so Dell Inspiron is the cheapest possible Dell you can put on a desktop. That's $500 US of 2 years ago. We could do 720p at 56. We choose 720p to do exactly the same thing as Cisco. And we say, damn, maybe we just recompile and it works. And we just recompiled and it was just working. So, live demo or it doesn't work, right? We're not doing marketing here. And if the demo does not work because the network doesn't let us connect to computer directly, just have a pre-recorded video just in case. So to make sure, so of course the demo isn't working. So, you didn't make a fool of yourself. I'm going to do better there. But we did a video to make sure that we were using AV1. Internally, we shift the chroma, right? So you will see one video is blue. So let me introduce you Thomas and Thomas. Thomas in big is the one working on AV1. He did that implementation. The other one is working on media on quick, right? Which is going to be something coming later in the year, datagram and so on. And it's actually working. We all look like Smurfs. It's cool. And it's real time. And again, the second computer is a little bit less beefy. One is Windows, one is Linux. It's approximately i7, 7th generation. So nothing fancy, 4 cores, normal desktop. So to apologize for not having a live demo, what we commit to do is to put the binary, precompiled binary online for everybody to check by themselves using Wireshark or whatever, or on whatever computer they have, look at the performance and exchange with us. Now, so that means it's really out there, and that entire stack is made on open source software, right? So that means WebRTC is open source, libOM is also open source. The glue we have in the middle is not open source yet, but we're thinking about it. What's missing, right? What's missing today for a full implementation of AV1 in real-time usage is the scalability. So Cisco said it during their presentation, but not everybody understands it. When they say they don't have scalability, it means they don't have SVC. And really, SVC is something that has been put in AV1 to an extreme extent to help having good quality under bad network condition when you have a media server in the middle. So for people that just do streaming or pre-recorded content, it doesn't matter. So people like Netflix and YouTube, they can use the libOM like it is today, that's fine. But for people like us that do real time, having SVC is going to make a difference. And that's where we're participating in our media to finish that RTP payload specification with SVC support as fast as possible to bring that. There are other encoder and decoders. So we open a bug with the missing stuff. We're still working with all the working group to try to bring it on. I think it will be better to open source at that stage than before. Otherwise, people will grab the implementation like it is today, and it will become a de facto standard, and we will all miss on SVC. So that's what we're afraid of. We're working with Intel to implement support for their encoder too. There are around 1,000 of encoder or decoder for AV1. The encoder is specifically problematic for real time. We don't want to be specific to one encoder. We want to be modular. So we're going to provide several implementations. We should present an SVT AV1 implementation in WebRTC at IBC. And we have a project already that is announced there on the Intel site. So we don't want to be proprietary, we want to share with everybody. So last slide, I promise, since we have the time. Open source, Cisco said no, but they were the only one with an implementation. What we would like to do is to be able to have everybody put their thing together, contribute together, and bring it to everybody. So we're discussing right now with the board of our media whether we're going to open source our stuff for everybody to help mature the specification faster, because when you try, that's only when you try to implement the technology that you realize there is a gap or there is something missing, right? And today there is an open source implementation specification, but there is not an open source implementation of the WebRTC stack, only the codec. Anybody in that room that want to collaborate with us, have access to it early and so on, we open. For us, it's a research project. We want it's not going to be a differentiator at this stage. We're not playing strategy, especially against company or the size of Cisco or Google and everything. They will look at us and say, thank you. So let's collaborate to have something better. And thank you for everybody that can otherwise contribute open source code. You gave, and we're going to try to give back.
Thank you, Alex. I mean, there's a lot of people in this room that probably don't know what they've just witnessed. Like, to me, this is amazing. Like, AV1 is the next step in doing amazing media without huge bandwidth requirements and everything that goes along with it. And the fact that people out there want to make commercial ones and not contribute back like at all in terms of, oh, these are all the problems that we had when we were implementing this. For people like Alex to come along and go, yeah, here you go, like, let's move on to the next step. That's amazing. It's amazing for real-time media. And this is the next step. And I'm super happy we could show it off here. Codecs are kind of boring to anyone that doesn't care about like how media is sent. For people that just care about getting media from A to B, they don't think about the in-between, do they?
Correct.
But we're streaming in 4K this year. What happens when we want to start streaming in 8K and everything else? Without codecs like AV1 coming along, that's not going to happen. So thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
We're on to the hackathon in here, and then we're on to the workshop out in the dome for like 20 minutes, and then into like that lunchy area that we don't have lunch in, to actually do the work. So thank you very much. Thank you, Alex.